So Measure 3 is the water bond on this fall's ballot, and it would appropriate just under $9 billion to various water projects across the state. The list of things that it provides water for is quite long, but the short summary is drinking water quality projects, water recycling, water conservation, desalination, stormwater capture, and then some gray infrastructure funding for things like the Fremont-Kern Canal. $750 million would go there to that project alone, and also funding for reconstruction of Oroville Dam and improving safety systems there. I think a couple of things are important to keep in mind as you try to consider whether you're going to vote for this bond or not. The first is the origin of the bond. Unlike typical water bonds, this bond does not come from the California legislature. It's a private initiative. Second is the scale of the bond. Water management in California is very expensive. A lot of money goes into it. Still, $9 billion is a fairly significant sum. And so one obvious question is whether you would rather have that sum spent on water management or on something else. A third key consideration as you evaluate this bond is whether you want bond funding to go to what water managers call green infrastructure or to gray infrastructure. Gray infrastructure is a little bit easier to understand. That is things like dams and canals and pipelines. And it's traditionally where California has invested a lot of its water money. Green infrastructure is things like floodplains and managing landscapes so we have better environmental quality but also higher levels of runoff. This particular bond puts a lot of its money into green infrastructure, though not all. And it does not put funding into new dams or new major off-stream surface water storage facilities. So for some people, that is a welcome step forward. For others, it's a source of concern. And then another basis for evaluating this bond is something that water managers or water policy experts refer to as the user pays principle. This bond comes out of taxpayer money. The taxpayers as a whole will have to pay it back. Another way of funding water infrastructure is to ask the users who benefit from that infrastructure to pay for it, either through user fees or through some other mechanism. And this bond does not use that approach. It's all taxpayer money. Some people have argued that at least for the gray infrastructure projects, things like the Oroville Dam reconstruction or the Fremont-Kern Canal repairs, that should be paid for by the beneficiaries of those specific projects. More generally, the argument for spending taxpayer money for environmental benefits seems to resonate with a larger group of people, but again, some would argue that those benefits should be paid for either by the environmentalists who particularly care about them, or by the water users whose projects initially created the environmental difficulties that lead to the necessity of this spending. So there are lots of arguments, both for and against, and good luck making a decision about how you're going to vote.